and I'm here today to talk to you about the top 5 things that all the best pressers in the world are doing, and you might not be, and we've got a little bonus one for you at the end as well. So we're going to jump straight in to number 1, shoulder stability work. Now, what do I mean by this? Well, your shoulder joint itself is surrounded by muscles that need to be strengthened, and when you're specifically just pressing, they're activated, but they're not getting stimulated in the way that's going to elicit growth and strength in that specific muscle. So shoulder stability work is extremely important because you're unable to express the strength in your triceps properly when your shoulder joint is unstable, because things will happen like you'll wobble with an overhead press, or even on a bench press you can lose your line. There's lots of things that can happen if your shoulders aren't stable enough when you come into being a big presser. So my top 3 go-to exercises for shoulder stability are a single arm Powell raise. You do 10 left, 10 right, 2 sets, really slow, even tempo. You don't need much load, and just that exercise on its own is going to give you just huge benefit with overhead stability. Most people find that it's a really difficult exercise, and something I was told by a friend of mine is you want to be roughly about 10% of your log press for a set of 5 to 10 on the Powell raise. So that's a little bit of a figure for you to go with regards to a goal weight to get to. Now, the next one is a trap 3 raise. Again, these exercises, they're not the most commonly seen, so I would put them into YouTube, have a quick look and make sure you're executing them properly. But a trap 3 raise, this is going to hit the lower head of your trap and is really important in overhead stability, and again, it's just going to show massive increases in that lockout strength because you're not going to be wobbling around at the top of your lift. Again, 10 left, 10 right, 2 sets is all you'll need on this exercise. I would do them in a row. So I'd do your Powell raises, then your trap 3 raises, and then I would go into your final exercise, which is my personal favorite, which is an IYT raise. Again, if you just type this in YouTube, you'll be able to see a really easy clip of how to do it. An IYT is 3 different types of raises. It's a front raise, a raise in like a Y shape, and then in a T shape. It hits all heads of your delt and your traps and your rhomboids, so it's absolutely brilliant for shoulder stability. And again, you don't need much load on this, so it's something you can put in at the end of your session and do this little 3 exercises for your shoulder stability, and you're going to get huge benefit from it. Now, moving into number 2. It's a little bit of a talking point with it. I was going to talk about hypertrophy. So one of the things that people do in the training is they do hit muscle groups in isolation, but they don't really track them and put as much effort and intensity into them as they do on the main lifts. Like, for example, people lay out a deadlift program over 6 to 8 weeks, whatever it is, and they know what reps, what sets, what weight they're going to hit. But then when it comes to their assistance exercises, let's say we're talking specifically for the press, like a tricep, they'll just do some tricep push downs at the end of the session, you know, whatever weight, they just clip it in the cable, do a couple sets of 10. There's no real intelligence gone into it. You know, you've just literally done a few sets of 10 on a tricep push down. So something that all the best pressers in the world will do is they will track their assistance exercises and progress them linearly with just as much intensity as the main compound lifts. So now we're going to go into point number 3, which is kind of leading on from hypertrophy. So isolating the triceps, okay? Obviously the triceps play the biggest role in pressing strength. So we need to enable them to grow, because the more muscle we have, the more muscle is able to contract. It takes a little bit of time. You don't just build muscle and instantly get stronger, but once you build more muscle fiber, you're able to train those muscle fibers to contract faster. So hypertrophy is always a good thing, especially in strength sports. So isolating the triceps with exercises like the JM press, a close grip bench press, or even the tricep pushdowns, overhead tricep extensions, all these things need to be done. And like I said on the previous point about hypertrophy, they need to be tracked and progressed linearly. Whether that be more reps, more sets, more volume, or more load, we need to make sure we are progressing them with the same intensity and same intelligence as the main compound lifts. Now, going into point number 4, leading on from the triceps, we need to make sure we are building a big, strong upper back. Think of upper back as like the stability platform that you're trying to press from. Okay, when we're pressing a log or an axle, we've not got a back support. We don't have like an incline bench there to support us. Our incline bench is our upper back and core. So we need to make sure that our upper back is really strong. So the same thing applies to what I said to the triceps. If you're doing your lat pull downs or your pull-ups, your chin-ups, your rows, whatever it is that you put into your training, make sure that they're progressed linearly whether it's sets, reps, total volume, rest times, or load on the dumbbell or barbell or pull down. Make sure you're progressing them. Don't just go in and do a few sets of 10 on lat pull down and don't even know what you put it on. Progress them and track them. It's going to make a massive difference to your training. And not only will you get a bigger, stronger back, you'll just get stronger in general from lifting more weight and linearly progressing. Now, number 5, although the specific movements in strongman overhead are like the log, the axle, and a monster dumbbell press, don't be shy of adding in other press variations. This is very important. This is something that all the best pressers will do. Almost think of it as an assistance to your main lift. So don't be afraid of doing bench press. Don't be afraid of doing a spoto press or an incline bench press or a floor press. You know what I mean? There are a lot of different pressing exercises out there, and you'll find that most good pressers are just good at pressing. Whether you get them on a bench, whether you get them on an incline, dumbbells, whatever it is, they'll be able to press big weights because they're not just strong at one specific movement. They've built up skill and strength in many different planes of motion and many different movement patterns, and it really does carry over well to your specific movements. So that's the top 5 things that all pressers are doing, and something that if you implement into your training, you will 100% see an increase in your press. But number 6, a little bonus point for you. Something that's very underrated and something that, because strongman's quite new and it's growing very fast, it's something that a lot of the big pressers didn't actually do at the time because they didn't actually have access to do this. But nowadays there are a lot of strongman gyms about, there are a lot of fabrication companies making equipment. It's a lot more accessible than it was 10 years ago. So one of the best things you can do to get good at pressing for strongman is acquire skill and master your leverages on the specific lifts. So log press. Don't just think when you do log press, you have to do it heavy all the time. Think about your clean mechanics. Think about where it's placing, where the handle's facing, how high your elbows in rack position, how high is your head pointing. All these things can make a huge difference. And when we get into the dip, is your spine staying neutral as you dip? Are your knees tracking too far forward? Do you need to turn your feet out slightly? There are loads of really fine, intricate cues you can use on things like the log and axle to be able to express your strength better. So don't just think about the specific lift as building strength. Think of it as getting better at that lift so you can express the strength you've built. That's pretty much everything. I hope you found this video useful. Remember to follow me on Instagram, MST Systems.